Hello guys, welcome back. In this video we'll be looking at PowerShell again, and we'll continue where we left off with the arrays video. We'll look at what properties arrays have in very brief detail, and then we'll move on. So let's see what I've already got. I've got a variable called capital A. Alright, so let's make it an array. So I've 0 to 10, and now if I do $a, it prints 0 to 10. That's what we want. Now $a has a property called count, right? It prints how many numbers it's got in it, like how many elements it has. We've got 11, so that's why it's printing 11. Now there is another property called length, which we just saw in the other video. So in this case, the count and length, they both return the same values, because I've got the same number of elements in the array, basically. So I could do $array.clear, which is basically a function, and it'll clear each element. So if I do $array now, it's got nothing in it. The variable still exists. Get variable. Okay, it's printed so many. So see, it's got $a. Well, a is the name of the variable. I could also do that actually. Name a, and see, there is a variable, and it's got 11 elements. Because if I do $array length, it's still 11, and same with $array count. So it's got all the elements, but they're all set to null at the moment. $null is the null variable. We talked about it in the variables video. Now let me see if I can do something cool. I'm gonna do $array, and I'm gonna pipe that to for each, and I'm gonna say $null equal, right? The current element, $_, right? If each of these is true, it'll print true. See how it's true? If I do not equal, it'll print all false, right? So this tells us that every element of the array A is set to null. That's what it does. I could do this in reverse as well, like it'll work the same way. So if I do $_, usually this is how you see people do this, and equals $null, and it prints all true, right? So that's pretty cool. That's how you could verify if a certain value exists within the array. And this is like the shorthand notation for the for each loop for object set. Now the other thing is the arrays do come with their own version of for each. So if I do for each, they have a function called for each, and I could write up any command. So I could do write host $, right? And this will print so many nulls. And if I have $a equals 100 $110, and do that, it'll print 100 to 110. We saw different versions of for each here, so please don't get confused. So this is also the same code, but it's much compact, and this is also the same code. This is also doing exactly the same thing what the other command did. So there's different ways of doing or using your commandlets in PowerShell. So be mindful of that. Now you can also use, let's say you have string dates, you know, like I can make my $a variable as that, and I just got some dates here, right? And if I do $array, now it's got a few dates, and they're all like string formatted dates. If I, for example, I could do $array of 0, and it should print one date. And if I do .getType, and the type is string, right? Now there'll be times when you want to like when you're creating this array, you might want to take these strings and make them dates. So you could do that using the for each statement, and just give it a specify or give it an explicit cast. So I'm gonna call it date time, and now if I do $array, it gives you a proper date string that we saw earlier, and if I do get type, it will be type date time. So this is also something cool you could do as you're creating different variables within an array. You can make sure they're of certain type. Another example is, let's say you're reading a column from a table which is very old SQL database, which has like ID numbers formatted as strings, so you could convert them to int while you do that. Well, I'm not going to do it now, but it's very simple to do that. Well, let me show you. Alright, I've quickly gone ahead and changed the contents of $a, and when I print $a, it's printing numbers, but if you actually look at the type, they're type string. So you could do the same thing when you're creating this. You could just say for each, and you could just make it int 32, right? And now if you do the same, it'll be an int 32 type. If you had a string in there, if I go back and add my name, this is not gonna work. It's gonna like fall right down. So it says mo for add to type string. It cannot convert the value mo to type number, right? So you gotta be careful, but this is how you do something like this. Very useful indeed. Another example of this is I could just have Sam, John, and Paul. Now these are all proper case, but I want to make them all upper. There's a function called toUpper, right? If everything goes to plan, when I print $a, they should all be in caps. You could do a whole lot of stuff. You could get a path of a directory which has a few files, and you could get their properties like last modified date or last access time or name, and then get unique values of that, or perform different functions. So arrays are very handy, and you could use well, there's something else that you could do but we haven't covered. So let's say I've got an array, and this one goes from 1 to 5, and I want to say where $_, and I want to multiply that by 10, right? If I do this, if the expression where operator is null, non-default value. Okay, let me see what's going on. Okay, so I see what I did. Probably used the wrong parentheses. I'll do a separate video on the types of brackets you can use, because it's very confusing. You can see I get confused from time to time. Okay, so that's what we wanted. Alright, so it printed that, but it did not print times 10. Interesting. So what happens if I use percentage 2? Okay, so I'll tell you what happened. So I've got numbers 1 to 5, but I want to see what number is divisible by 10, and that's what it returned, right? So it took out the even numbers because I said times 2. So if I had larger data set, I could do %10, which means which of these numbers are divisible by, or let me do 3, then it'll make more sense. If I do 3, it should print 1, 2, 4, 5, right? There it is. So if you want to filter numbers based on what they're divisible by, this is something you could do. We talked about where function in brief in the previous video, so check out one of the previous videos from this series, from this playlist, and you should be able to get more information. Now I could go on with other examples like the ones we saw for over here, the for each. So I'm not gonna make this video too long. I'll show you one last thing. Let's say I've got $a, which has got that, and $b. $b has got these numbers, and $a has got these numbers. So I'm gonna make sure $a equals $, and 100, 1, and 102. Right? So, and same with $b. I'm gonna make it $6, 5, 4. Let's say we want to concatenate these two, so I could do $c equals $A plus $B, and now $C should have all the numbers. So that's how you can concatenate them. If you like this video, please share with your friends. Comment if you'd like to start a conversation. Come on, don't be shy, and hit the subscribe button now.